It's good to have you here. I want to start with, obviously, Minnesota. And, you know, the Renee Good story is kind of a smaller part of a much larger story. And that is that the 20 million people that were let into this country under Joe Biden, the same people that are making all this noise right now let that happen to this country. And I think the question becomes for, I think, most Americans when they look at this is what side of this, you know, decision do they want to be on? And what side of the American policy on immigration do they want to be on? Because the alleged victim here, Renee Good, and her wife are out there. They're basically anarchists. They're essentially Antifa anarchists that want to have a completely open society with no rules, no regulation, no immigration enforcement. I don't think most Americans agree with that. And that to me, I think, is a very important part of this story is where do you stand? Do you want no immigration policy in this country? Because that's what these people are fighting for tonight.
What's really interesting is they don't want any immigration until you send people from Florida to Martha's Vineyard, for example, and then they're the first ones to send them right back out. Look, I think we've been pretty straightforward, at least speaking for my community in Florida. I think a lot of people are really upset about the amount of people that have come here and then also come here not just illegally, but those that maybe came here fraudulently and are now abusing our system. And we're seeing this at mass scale in Minnesota specifically. But I think that if you look at more of these blue cities and blue states, you'll find it probably not the only occurrence to have happened. And so I'm really happy to see that the White House has assigned a new Deputy Attorney General to this topic. And also, too, I'm very happy that the criminal referrals that we've been sending out of our office have been making big waves at the Department of Justice, and they're following up on that. So I think that there's going to be more to come out of the DOJ on our criminal referrals regarding Governor Walz and also to the Attorney General of Minnesota.
Yeah, there's a tremendous amount of corruption in that state, and the fraud story is another huge side of this. I want to talk for a second about a guy named Neville Singham, though. American businessman, made a fortune here in the United States, moves to China, and now spends a lot of his money, millions of dollars he spends, trying to destroy the country that made him wealthy. He's a communist. He's a traitor. He's a terrible person. You have issued a subpoena against him, trying to draw him back to the United States to find out just how involved he is in the chaos that we're seeing being manufactured in our streets over immigration. Talk about that.
Oh, most certainly. So to be clear, this subpoena was a motion that I made in committee, and it was passed unanimously by both Democrat and Republicans. I actually explained just that this individual, Neville Singham, is not a FARA agent. He's not registered as an agent of China, and yet he is funding a lot of these anti-ICE riots that you're seeing across the country. But not just that issue. You can take other issues like Israel versus Palestine, for example, not to get into the politics of that, but taking that as a simple issue. And he's funding an organization called Code Pink that doesn't actually seek to solve the issue or even back up a peace deal. They simply aim to sow discord, specifically in the House of Representatives and among the American people. And we know for a fact that this guy is an open Maoist. It's actually, he's self-proclaimed. But he is, I would argue, probably worse than George Soros. And he's gone on for far too long, unvetted and unchecked. When then Senator Rubio was the head of Senate Intelligence, he actually had put a recommendation in for the previous Attorney General to bring charges. It was never followed up on. But we did make referral to the DOJ. We also sent the Treasury a request to freeze assets because of his failure to cooperate with House oversight and refusal of a request to come in to testify. So we have now issued the bipartisan subpoena. And I would say that this issue specifically, if the DOJ follows up on it, if Treasury Secretary Bassett follows up on this, and they actually take this seriously, which I think they will, I do think that you'll see a lot of the foreign funding ties as well as the chaos that we're seeing in this country, specifically now even looking into what's happening right now with these, again, counter-ICE protests now in Minnesota, that you'll see exactly where it's coming from, and it is simply benefiting the Communist Chinese Party. And I will again say we support free speech, but when you are now violently protesting and causing harm to other American citizens, that's where we draw the line. And so I look forward to seeing what the DOJ has to say on it.
Yeah. And what kind of a scumbag makes all of his money in the United States and is a Maoist? I mean, if you truly believe in it, he should send every penny that he has to the Chinese Communist Party for them to redistribute that wealth as they see fit in the country that he lives in. But he's not going to do that. I got one more for you. Jerome Powell, federal prosecutors opening a criminal investigation into the Federal Reserve chair on whether or not he lied to Congress about the scope of the renovation to the central bank headquarters. The president's talked a lot about this. In July, you referred him to the DOJ for just that. Powell has come out saying he's being targeted by Trump because he didn't cut interest rates. Tell us why this is a justifiable investigation into Jerome Powell. What is it specifically here that you see?
Look, Yeah, look, you can't perjure yourself to Congress, and regardless of what the senators, I don't even know if we want to call them senators because I don't think that they're actually representing the interests of their voters, but regardless of what some of these Republican senators are saying about, this being targeted prosecution by the president, specifically Murkowski, I actually just said today, this criminal referral is one that I did directly and I sent last year. And so for people to say that this is somehow partisan and now somehow the DOJ is opening up this investigation, we sent that request because of his own statements. Powell's own statements where he perjured himself to Senate. And the Senate, as well as Congress on the House side, has the exact same rules. You can't lie to Congress. Anyone else would go to jail for that. So I'm the first person that says if you're going to do it, you should be held in criminal court for it. And so I think that he'll have explaining to do. I don't think it has anything to do with the interest rates, but I also find it very interesting that people are failing to go back to the point that we sent this referral last year and they're trying to make it current as if it's targeted and it's not. So we'll be fighting the fake news all day long on that one.
Well, yeah, I mean, if it's, that certainly does change the story about, the anger at Powell over interest rates was not nearly as as intense as it has been the last couple of months. All right, good stuff. Congresswoman Anna Paulina Luna, thank you so much. We appreciate it. Good to see you.
Anytime.
Thank you. God bless.
Everybody's reporting the same stories, the same spin. You turn the channel, it's always the same. But not us. We're different. We report the real news. No spin, just the facts. Turn to us, and you won't turn back.
Tune in to Rob Schmitt Tonight on Newsmax.